Hello, ballers. Welcome back. It's Jacqueline, and this is Chesticles. So glad you're back here listening to my podcast. I appreciate it. I love watching the numbers rise, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all the feedback. I wanted to tell you a little bit about, when I grew up. My dad used to love to tell the story. I mean, I know now it would be child abuse, but, I'm a Gen Xer, we're tough people. And he tells this story. He says I was in about 18 months old, just starting to walk, And he was sitting there with my Uncle Sam, his brother, and they put 2 shots in front of me. I think he said one was whiskey and one was gin and the shot glass. And they said, "Okay, Jacqueline, which one do you want?" And I picked up the gin and I drank the whole thing. I put it down. I picked up the whiskey and I drank the whole thing. No, this is a terrible story. I know, I'm not telling you to do this, but, this was in the 60s, so things were a little different back then. And I said, "Dad, why did you give a baby alcohol?" He's like, "Oh, it was funny. It was funny, My dad was only early 20s when I was a baby. But anyway, I said, "What did I do, Dad? What did I do? To me, that's a lot of alcohol." And he said, "You put them down, you squinched your eyes, and you walked over about 10 feet. You started to stumble, and then you passed out." Dad, that's not good. Were you worried? He said, "Nah, we knew you'd be okay. It's only 2 shots, but I'll tell you, I was surprised you took both of them. You figure after the first one, So no wonder till this day I don't like straight alcohol. Vodka's the only thing I can handle. But yeah, that was part of how I grew up, I remember making my dad drinks when he came home from work. And he said, "You want to make me a gin and tonic?" And we had the whole bartending set at home because my dad was a bartender. Well, he had so many jobs. My dad was a lunch truck driver. And he would drive out to the Navy Yard and have his lunch truck and sell coffee and snacks and sandwiches and things like that, And he was a work ethic. My father... he would go. I remember my mom saying, "Vic, you have a flu. Your fever's 104. You can't go to work." He's like, "Nah, I'll be all right. I'll be all right." He was a worker. And then after he finished his lunch truck job, because after about lunchtime, I guess it, started to slow down, but because he'd leave the house at 4:30 in the morning. But then it would slow down, so then he would go to his bartending job. He was a bartender at a fancy restaurant in Delaware County. So he worked there for years. And he was a worker. He did not want my mother to work. He wanted her to be a stay-at-home wife and a housekeeper. I don't think he realized that's not what she really wanted to do. My mother was so brilliant. Oh, she was so smart. And nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home housekeeper if that's what you want. But I think my mom wanted to do something else. So imagine they got divorced. But anyway, so I used to make his drinks when he came home for him, and I would have them perfect because I just loved my dad. I was such a daddy's girl. And he'd say, "Hey, do me a favor, get me a beer." Okay, and I would open it for him, and I would take a little sip. And I always liked the taste of beer. Even when I was little, I remember it was like soda to me, and we weren't really allowed to have so much soda. So it was like a fizzy drink. And, so I did like the taste of it. But I'd get him his beer, or I'd make him a gin and tonic with just squeeze a lime. He taught me how to do it right. And he would be so proud of me. "Oh, thank you, baby. This is great. This is delicious." My dad was one of those dads that, whatever you did, it was the best he ever had, He'd open up a present that you made or bought. One time I gave him this cheap little I don't know, like 2-inch by 2-inch address book that I bought at the school fair for Christmas. And I opened it up. He says, I'll tell you what, I was just telling my buddy. I was just telling him I really I need a new address book. And look at this. He's paging through this little 2-inch by 2-inch. You would have thought it was a Rolls Royce. He was always very good at, making us feel good when we gave him even the stupidest thing. I was like, really? You like it? Oh, yeah. I was just telling my buddy. He was always just telling his buddy. Oh, my dad was a combination of, like, Joe Pesci. I mean, he even looked like Joe Pesci. And he just had that, that air about him. Just the way he talked, that Philly accent, and hey, and this and that. And, it just was a funny man. I miss my dad so much. Oh, he and my mom, they loved each other, but they just couldn't get along. He couldn't understand why she didn't want to just, cook and clean and take care of the kids. And he just, he had that old-fashioned mentality that's what women should do. And you should be grateful that you don't have to work. But, times they change. And even when I was working, my dad said, well, you did this to yourself. You know that? You did this to yourself. I said, what do you mean I did it to myself? He says, all this women's movement stuff, If you women didn't push all this stuff and try to get out there and work, you could be staying home, just cleaning the house and cooking and taking care of the kids. Now you have to go out and work. And I said, Dad, not everybody wants to do that. Some people want to do both. They want to have a family and work, and he just, women, the man is the head of the household. Women are, he was a funny guy. But really, think of Joe Pesci. Just that same kind of, in My Cousin Vinny. That accent. Oh, I miss my dad. He was a funny guy. Good times. Whenever he and my mom would go out, I would say, well, hey, where are you going? He'd say, we're going to 5th and Jabip to see Mr. Gazette. And that's it. That's all we got. Every time it was 5th and Jabip to see Mr. Gazette. I don't know where 5th and Jabip is. I've never met Mr. Gazette, but this was the answer my entire growing up. Never knew where he went. We found out later they used to go to this local nightclub and listen to music and dance and things like that. But that's what it was. 5th and Jabip to see Mr. Gazette. So I often think, well, if anybody ever asked me, if God forbid something ever happened and the police came, well, where are your parents? Because this is way before cell phone days. I would say, well, he's at 5th and Jabip, and he's with Mr. Gazette is there too. Probably would have locked me up for being cuckoo. Yeah, that's what he told us, my 2 sisters and I. 5th and Jabip to see Mr. Gazette. And I don't know why that always just stays in my head, It was never anything different no matter where he was going. Unless he was going to work, then it was going to work. But if he was going out with my mom on a date or whatever, 5th and Jabip to see Mr. Gazette. He had lots of funny stories, my dad. He was a funny guy, and he was very animated, too. And I like to take after him, so I would want to put shows on. So I would put on little shows and make my family sit on the couch, and my dad was the only one who was really interested, but he guilted my mom and my sisters to watch me, And I would pretend I was Lily Tomlin, and I would do the one ringy dingy, 2 ringy dingies, I would do that, or I would imitate Cher, because they were my favorite, Lily Tomlin and Cher and Carol Burnett, just Mr. Tudball. Oh my gosh, I just loved doing that. Or I would sing songs. I always used to sing songs. Oh, from the time I was, 5, I used to sing Mercedes-Benz by Janis Joplin, my all-time favorite song. I actually have a tattoo on my leg of the cover of the Pearl album from Janis Joplin, which was her last recording before she died. I've loved her my whole life. Her soulful voice, if you ever read about her, and gosh, she was a tortured soul. But I just remember being a kid and her voice just hit me. I just loved it. So that would be one of my shows I would put on. I would sing Janis Joplin, "Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz," So, of course, everybody would say, what kind of car do you want when you grow up? I always wanted a Mercedes-Benz. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, good luck with that, I remember for, my 10th birthday, my grandmother bought me, a plastic Mercedes-Benz, like Barbie's style, size, And I said, oh, I have a Mercedes-Benz. So it took me till I was, 50-something before I did actually get my Mercedes-Benz. So there you go. If you put it out there, it'll come back to you eventually. And I love it, and I still have it, and its best part is it's paid off. But they used to sit and watch. My dad would always clap, And then when I was in high school, I was in a play. I was in Greece, and I wanted so bad to be Rizzo. But I told you before, I'm not a musician. I can sing a little bit, but more like parrot sing, and I can only sing certain songs. So when I auditioned, I was doing, I wanted to be Rizzo. Oh man, I thought I'd be such a good Rizzo. And I sang the song and I messed it up so bad. I mean, he kept saying, okay, that's good. And I was like, well, wait, let me finish it. But I just, I was so horrible. I was so off key. I was off beat. I had no pitch. It was just, well, anyway, I got the part of Jaja Di Gregorio, the best dancer at St. Bernadette's. And that was my one and only line. And I did the dance, though, the fancy dance in the play. So me and Danny did that fancy dance. And I remember my dad jumping up in his seat. He couldn't believe that, He said, oh, I can't believe you're doing all this. All this time just from, I was sitting on the couch watching you do your acts and you're singing. He was so impressed. It was very easy to impress my dad for us kids. Whatever we did was just, the best in the world. But, they were good times. I loved being in that play. The girl who got Rizzo was much better than me at singing. And then, of course, Sandy. I didn't even try out for Sandy. I knew I wasn't that good, but it was a fun play. I loved being in that play. I had the boa, strampy look. I had it all going on. And I loved that one line, the whole play. My name is Cha-Cha Di Gregorio, the best dancer at St. Bernadette's. And then the girls would be behind my back, with the worst reputation. Oh, it was lots of fun. Obviously I like to be the center of attention, which sometimes people think, oh, you just like attention. And it's true. I did. I loved attention. I loved to make people laugh, and I loved to make, if when I was in my band and I was singing and people were enjoying it, that just, I don't know, makes me feel good to make a crowd feel good. Is that so wrong? I don't know, but I did always like attention. I always like to be the one in charge, the leader, this is what's going to happen. And that's not always a good thing, though, because a very strange thing happened when I was growing up. I went to a Catholic school. I went to 12 years of Catholic school. And my high school was 4 years, and it was an all-girls school. And I hated every minute of that school. Oh, my goodness. So much so that when I got to my junior year, I actually went to tech school because there were boys there. Because I was boy crazy. Imagine that. But anyway, we were in about 6th grade, and we used to go to this Pennypack Park. It was a great park, and we'd go there, and as we got older, we'd have kegs in the park. But this was before the keg days. And we'd just go walk around the park, and, we'd always see our friends there and whatever. And so my crowd and I were bunch of girls walking around, and we bump into the boys we went to school with, and talked to them for a little bit, but then they went off doing something else, and we went off and did our own things, just, walking around the park, enjoying ourselves. And it was getting late, so we decided, everybody was going to go home before dinner. Make sure we were home for dinner. Anyway, we're leaving the park, and all of a sudden, a police van pulls up. And we used to call them paddy wagons back then. So it was a police van, and he stopped sideways on the path so we couldn't cross. And I'm leading, I'm walking first, so I'm going around it. He's like, yo, hold on a second. He said, what did you girls do with those bikes? Now, we didn't see any bikes. We didn't touch any bikes. None of us had bikes. So I said, we didn't do anything with any bikes. We didn't even have any bikes. Well, that's not what we heard. We heard there was a crowd of kids, and you stole these little kids' bikes, and you destroyed them and ran them through the falls and the rocks. And I said, none of us are wet. We didn't do anything. And I keep walking forward. He's like, I said, wait a minute. And he's like, all right, get in the van. Now, this is scary. I'm in 6th grade. If you heard about this on the news today, this world would be in uproar. So it was me and I think probably 6 of my girlfriends. And we get in the van. And let me tell you, that's not a pleasant place to be. If you've ever been in the back of a cop van, I mean, geez, that's where the criminals go. We didn't do anything wrong. So me, Miss Smarty Pants leader, I'm thinking, okay, everybody's starting to cry, but I wasn't crying, which is weird because I was a crier. But for some reason, I was just like, I can't believe we're getting in trouble. We didn't do anything. Well, he shuts the door and you can hear it lock. And then he starts driving. And then everybody starts crying. Except me. I say it strong. I'm like, girls, don't worry. What he's going to do is he's going to take us for a little scare. He's trying to scare us. Like, how can we get in trouble? We didn't do anything wrong. And we didn't. We genuinely didn't do anything wrong. Well, next thing I know, I'm looking out the window, and now we're on the street. So I'm like, uh-oh. This is not just a scare us ride. We're going. And, yep, we went. 15th Police District. Took us all out. Now, we are in 6th grade. 6th grade. And they brought us in, and they put us in a holding cell. And they had gotten the boys as well. So they put us all in the holding cell, the girls in one holding cell, the boys in the other holding cell. Again, 6th grade. So how old are you in 6th grade? What is that? 10? 11? I mean, we were young. We were babies. And I was scared out of my mind, but I have to act cool. Well, they left us in there forever. No food, no water, nothing. And everybody's mother, got called. And everybody's mother came up to see them. What happened? What's going on? And all the girls are like, we don't know. We don't know what's going on. But they told us we did something to bikes. Well, here the boys ended up being the ones doing something to the bikes. And we weren't with them at the time. We didn't know anything about it. But we were in there for a long time. And one by one, every parent that got called, they'd come up. And all the boys' moms would come one by one. And then all the girls' moms. Not my mom. No, my mom was tough. She was tough because in her mind, if I got in trouble, I deserved it. I was a little bit of a rebel, and she just never once came to see me in that holding cell. We were there for hours. So finally, because I just wanted to let her know we really didn't do anything. So finally, they take us out of the holding cell and they point at me. They're like, you with the mouth, you come with us. So I had to be the one to tell the story. And my mom was down there waiting for me. So she wouldn't come up to see me, but she was there. And she was not happy. She was not happy. My mother was a beautiful woman. And I still remember she had her hair in a high ponytail, her beautiful blonde hair and her beautiful blue eyes. But boy, they were mad at me. So we sat down at the desk with the police officer. And did I tell you I was in 6th grade? Okay. And he says, okay, so I have to ask you some questions. You seem to be the leader of the crowd. And I don't know if I was the leader of the crowd, but I just was the one speaking up. Like, we didn't do anything, And my mother wouldn't even look at me. She was so angry. So he said, all right, well, I'm going to ask you some questions. And I was like, okay. He said, before I do, I just want to let you know, you have the right to remain silent if you get, well, that's when the tears started. I'm like, because that's what you see on TV when you're in trouble and you're going to jail. They read you your rights, the Mirandizing. I was petrified. And my mother wouldn't comfort me. She was just, but he read me my rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to, an attorney if you can't afford an attorney. The whole thing. And I just looked at my mom, and then I was really scared. Because even though I knew I didn't do anything wrong, I mean, when you're in 6th grade and a police officer reads you your rights, that is some whack shit. That is something that really, talk about an eye-opener. I mean, especially when I didn't do anything. None of us girls did anything. So anyway, he asked me some questions. I said, look, we did see the boys. We hung out with them for a little bit. Then we split off again, and they were over at the other side with the falls. But I didn't see them on bikes. I didn't see them do any. None of us saw them. They just, we were in a different part of the park. So I was like, all right, and he let me go. My mother didn't talk to me the whole way home. I said, Mom, I didn't do anything. And she was just driving, maybe it's the people you hang around with. And it wasn't. We were like a nice crowd of girls, we really didn't get in trouble. But yeah, that was a story. I'll tell you. Can you imagine watching the news and hearing 7 girls and 5 boys were arrested and put in a holding cell for several hours in Philadelphia today? I mean, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. But yeah, that's the truth. That's what happened. I mean, nothing happened to us because we didn't get in trouble. I don't know if anything ever happened to the boys. They might have had to pay for buying the kids new bikes. I really don't know what ever happened out of it. But boy, that was an eye-opener. Listen, thank you for listening. I'm so happy to have this podcast, and I'm so glad you guys are enjoying it as much as you are. And, please follow. Ask me any questions. Tell me what you think of the podcast. Make a comment. Anything. I appreciate it. And, share it. Make somebody else laugh. These are all true stories. They're all true stories. So, I'm going to be telling lots more too. So, I'll look forward to, listening back for you guys, and you listen for me. And I decided I'm going to call all my listeners ballers because of brass balls. So, all my listeners are going to be the ballers. Thanks so much, you guys. I love doing this, and I love that you like it. Have a great day. Bye.